status. Good morning, status. Is it on? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to call it for the day. I have made probably every screw up in the book you could make. I just didn't do a lot of things right. I didn't pay attention to those details, which, man, if I had a nickel for every time I did a push-up for that, with the drill sergeant over top of you going, attention to detail, attention to detail. So I failed in a lot of ways today. That's the bad news. The good news is this thing is pretty close to being done. Many of my mistakes you'll see in this video, and my daughter was sure to remind me as she was watching over my shoulder, but so many different things went wrong. And I would put a 23-inch piece where a 26-inch piece should go. I left my 1 3/4 gap on the wrong side of this. The whole frame started off wrong. I ran out of battery 3 times or so. So I'm gonna go in and have dinner with the family, pray the rosary as we always do, and you know, kind of check myself at the door. You know, when your daughter says, "Wow, Daddy, you must be really tired," or maybe you're hungry, and she can see, you know, she can see what's going on. You know, that's a humbling thing. But I hope you get something out of this. I hope you learn from my mistakes and don't have these same things, and don't do these same mistakes that I did. And I hope your build is a whole lot better, and I hope your day is awesome, because despite all of this, my day has been awesome. I got to spend it outside. I got to do something that I love to do, build things. I got to do it with the people that I love, and we got some animal breaks in there too. So all in all, pretty awesome day, despite my attempts at every turn to mess it up.
Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school, so you can feel cool. Give it to me, baby. Baby. Yeah.
So what I've gotten so far is I've taken what I had on hand. I'm not going out and buying anything if I can help it. Is what I had on hand were a bunch of 16-foot long 2x6s that were treated. So that's what I've used. I cut them down into 8-foot sections so it would be easier to manage, and then I ripped each of those into 3 pieces. The original screw that screwed the frame together split this piece of wood right down the middle. So I just tried to put a smaller screw, 1 5/8 screw, to kind of hold those 2 pieces together. The problem I then ran into was where to put these screws, because now you have 2 screws that are coming through this little itty bitty tiny piece of wood, and it's hard not to get them too close to the end, because that's where the splits happen. Although in this case it happened right down the middle. But definitely something that's a challenge, and you know, maybe going forward I start to I drill some pilot holes and do something a little differently. You've heard the old saying many times, probably measure twice, cut once, all that good stuff. Well, when I was ripping down these 16-foot 2 by 6s. I just cut them in half and went with that number. Well, it turns out that when I did that, I cut one of them, because I had 2 of those boards. I cut one of them at 96 and a half, and because there was kind of a bad end on one side, and then now one of them at 96. But when I put them back together and sorted the lumber, I put them together in the best stacks because there's some knots and some other things in there instead of actually measuring again. So what I ended up with was 2 of my pieces are 96 inches and 2 of them are 96 and a half. So I just had to disassemble this part, this end, and then put it back together. Lessons learned: measure twice, measure twice, measure twice, measure 3 times, many times you need to, so you don't have to go back and undo it. So now I got to turn this whole thing over and shorten one of these ends again to get the whole thing back squared up. The reason I discovered that little trick is when I was laying those 24-inch pieces out that are the support pieces underneath here and centering them out, I got to this side and it didn't measure out. It was off. So I knew something was off, so then I stopped and measured it out and discovered my error. So now, time to put these support beams in, get back on track. I'll do my marks, and then we'll be singing again. The plans call for a 1x4, and I don't really have 1x4s, and I'm not going out to buy them, so this is the closest thing I've got. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to adjust my table saw and take these pieces that came from a bunch of old pallets or something like that, I'm not real sure, and I'll rip them down because some of these are kind of messed up. This one's got a busted edge and that one's all rounded, but I should be able to get the pieces that I need out of the material that's here. So 26 and 5/8. We counted down. 1/2 is 4/8, right? It's the same. So we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8, and that's the mark that we made just right over here. And then I'll put an X on this side to tell me which side that I want to cut, because the blade has a thickness as well. The blade is thick. So if I just put it right on top of there, it's going to cut this piece too short. So I put that line right on where I want it to be, and then I put the blade on this side. That little X reminds me of which side I need to put it on. That way this piece is the perfect length and this piece is just chopped off. You want to make that mark? Make it nice and tight up against that seam. Very, very good. So now, which side do you think I need the blade to be on? Which side gets the X? That side? That's right, you can put the X on there. Now, because we had to rearrange some things in the camera and all other kinds of different things, we're not real sure which piece was which, and you put that X on there because that reminds me now which side. If I had just put a mark, I might forget which side I want to cut it on. Okay.
Can you still see the mark?
See the mark?
Right
up to it. So now let's double check, because today my measuring hasn't been. So let's double check. What do we need?
We need 20.
20 inches. What do we have?
20 inches.
Close to it?
No, right on it.
All right, good job. Man Glitter, that's my girls like to say. And my daughter behind the camera is getting blasted in the face with a whole bunch of this sawdust that's coming out of, excuse me, man glitter.